Hi, my name's Aaron Curry, and in this video I just want to talk to you about the chaos, the confusion, the fear that's been caused by coronavirus and what you can do as an individual to help others in this economy and to help you and your family and friends build a financial fortress that's going to protect you right now and also protect you for generations to come. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't guarantee you even what's going to happen next week, let alone next month, in 6 months, in a year's time, 10 years' time. But I can give you a feel, and I can give you a feel of what I believe may happen. And that isn't just my gut feel. This is based on, or my intuition, this is based on looking at what the financial geniuses are saying right now. What are the financial geniuses stepping up and saying, and why can we consider them financial geniuses? Why can we trust what they say? So I'm going to talk to you about 2 or 3 great financial minds and what they're saying. The first one, let me talk to you about a guy called Ray Dalio. So you may not have heard of Ray Dalio. He's in the US top 100 rich list. He is a fund manager. His company called Bridgewater. Back in 2017, they're the latest stats I can find you, but 160 billion pounds worth of funds he had under management back then. It will be a lot larger now. 160 billion of funds under management. And Ray Dalio, when the last credit crunch happened back in 2007, back in 2008, first of all, Ray Dalio was the first person to come out and say this crunch is going to happen. He predicted the crunch before it happened, and he was the person that the governments turned to, not just the US government, but governments all around the world were taking advice and getting leadership from Ray Dalio on how to stimulate the market, how to look after jobs back in that time, and how to make sure the economy was okay. So he's so well positioned to give us advice. Ray Dalio is predicting that this financial crisis that we're heading into right now is going to cost at least 12 trillion pounds. 12 trillion, not million or billion, trillion. And we can't even imagine that number. You can't even put a context in it. But that's basically 14% of the world's GDP. 14% just wiped out, gone. Okay, and that could even be a modest prediction. We're in crisis mode right now, aren't we? We've got people losing their jobs. The government are throwing money out. They're doing all they can to keep people in their jobs. Even people that aren't losing their jobs are maybe only going to get paid 80% of what they were paid before. And they're not going to rush out to spend that because they're going to save as much of it as they can in case it gets worse, in case the government can't keep paying us. So then we drop to 70% getting spent, 60% getting spent. The economy is getting really severely hit. Let's look briefly at the stock market. The stock market back in the credit crunch, that dropped about 20% in its worst day. When the Great Depression happened, which was horrific back in the 1920s, 1930s, the Great Depression, the worst day was a 12.8% drop. The Dow Jones, which is the US index, one of the main US indexes for the stock market, dropped 20% alone, 20% plus on the 9th of March. On the 12th and 16th of March, it dropped another 10% this year. We've lost 30% of the Dow Jones in the last 2 or 3 weeks alone. And other economies all around the world experiencing the same kind of cuts. So these cuts are more severe than the credit crunch, more severe than the Great Depression. We've got more people at fear of losing their jobs. We've got more companies on the edge of extinction. So now I'm not here just to give you bad news, by the way. Hey, come on my video, let me depress you, okay? I can also give you some great news at the end of this, how you can help other people and how you can help society and how you can help yourself and your family too. But let's get real here, okay? China, let's think about output. Even before the coronavirus outbreak, China's output, the amount of products it was making and putting out there, had dropped to its lowest level for 30 years. Coronavirus is going to make that far, far worse. Lowest level for 30 years. We used to get everything from China, all our parts, all our bits, all our stuff. The output is dropping, okay? We've got the stock market in trouble. We've got that output in trouble, okay? Now, what's happening in the property market? I can't make any guarantees to you, like I've said. But when we look back and look at the patterns, when the credit crunch happened, we got a 10% drop on average, roughly, in housing market. 10%, okay? Some areas went down 15%, but some areas only went down 5 or 6. When you look back through history, the market never really drops more than 10% on average. You get your pockets that are different, but never really more than 10% on average. So will it be different this time? I can't guarantee you this, but my prediction is that one of two things are going to happen. The government are piling in with money like never seen before. And by the way, I mentioned Ray Dalio earlier. What is he recommending right now? He's recommending they pile in. He's speaking to the policymakers saying you just put the money in and you see yourself through. If the government can see us through the next 3, 4 or 5 months, if they can make sure that we preserve as many jobs as possible, the underlying factors will still be there. If we can all come out to play again in 4 or 5 months' time and we're no longer isolated, then we're in a position where we'll want to go on holiday, we'll want to go stay in a hotel, we'll want to go to a restaurant, we'll want to go to cafes, we'll want to go meet our friends, and we'll want to spend money and enjoy this world, this beautiful world that we live in. So those underlying economic factors that were here before coronavirus will still be here after, and we'll still be in a good economy. And that's what the government are banking on. They're trying their absolute best. They're throwing all the money at it right now today to try and see us through that period, so that, and they know that if they can, that then the spending will be there again and things will carry on and reasonably quickly get back to normal. If that happens, then we're likely to see a property market that drops in the next 3, 6, 9 months. And that probably drops somewhere between 5, 10, 15%. And I'll come back to that shortly. If that doesn't happen, if the government fail in their mission, if they can't keep us going, if coronavirus takes 12, 15, 24 months to cure, and we don't know whether it will, we're already here, and it might take a year of being in isolation, coming out, back in isolation, coming out. Now they can manage that. Big lump of money, we come back out, it's okay. Big lump of money, we come back out, it's okay. But if this takes longer, if this takes 15 to 24 months, the government at some stage will not have as much money left to throw at this. And the businesses that try to survive and try and see their way through won't be able to keep doing that for 9 months, 12 months, 15, 18 months. Or the business owners won't want to keep doing that. They'll be exhausted, they'll be worn out with it. Then we may go into a deeper recession. And that recession may be a big dip for 2, 3, 4 years. And then we might see bigger drops than we've seen before. It might be a 10 to 15% drop in the property prices that we see, rather than that 5, 10 or 15%. Now, why could it only be 5%, Aaron? You say you're giving us all this disastrous news. How can it only drop 5 or 10%? What are you on about? Well, history tells us it doesn't, even in the worst case scenarios, it doesn't drop gigantically. Why is that? Well, it's about supply and demand. If you've got a supply that stays steady, people are wanting to sell their houses, and demand drops off a cliff, then your prices drop because you've got a supply and no demand. It's the same when they go up, by the way. If you've got a supply of property and demand is massively higher than the supply you've got, massively higher, then prices skyrocket. That's what makes prices go up massively. Okay? And when they're going up gradually, it's because supply and demand are going up at about the same rate. Now, what's different right now is that supply is going to drop as well as demand. And I want you to get that piece. No one's going to go out in the next 2 months and go, I want to sell my house right now. Now's the time to sell. They are in 3, 6, 9 months, and I'll explain why in a moment. But in the next 2 to 3 months, that's the last thing on people's minds. So supply is dropping as well as demand. Now, demand is going to drop more than supply, don't get me wrong. There are some people with the houses already up for sale that do need to sell for various reasons, and demand's really going to drop. If we're in lockdown, you can't even go out and view houses, okay? So prices are going to drop, but not as much as if supply was staying the same. Not as much. So if the government can stimulate us through this, then the likelihood is that 5 or 10%. I can't guarantee you, but that's a likelihood. So that is something very real to think about. What else is going to impact this? Let's think about what's going to happen over the next 4 to 8 weeks. Okay? We're going to get in a lockdown situation, more and more isolated. When do families normally spend the most time together? Normally it's at Christmas, isn't it? We take our 10 days off at Christmas, we shut ourselves away with our family and our loved ones, and we spend the most time together. Now, you may or may not know this, but statistically, the majority of divorces, or not the majority, but far higher statistically, the divorce rate goes up significantly at that period. People make the decision, we've spent this time together, we don't get on, we're out. Now, they have extra financial pressure at Christmas, don't they? And they have the fact that they're spending this extra time together. What's going to be happening with lockdown? Extra financial pressure, extra fears, extra worries. Couples right now, you're having this at home right now. One or the other of the spouses in really, really worried state, is upset. We've got financial pressure coming in on you as a family, on your friends and your families. You're worried about them, you're worried about each other. And this isn't going to go away. And what we're going to see, sadly, is a spike in that divorce rate. This is going to lead to people making the decision, we're not actually right together, we don't want to be together. We're going to see communities come together in a phenomenal way, by the way. I don't want to be all negative. I'm already seeing it. It's just amazing how communities are coming together. Teams are pulling together. People are supporting each other in ways they never have done before, and that's brilliant. But relationships with intimate others are really, really being stressed and tested right now, and people have got different views on how to manage it, different views, as always we will have, and the divorce rate is going to be spiking. Those people are going to need to, once this crisis is over, they're going to want to live separately. They're going to want to live apart. And I don't want that for them. Please understand that. But they're going to want that. People like the builders in this country. Builders build properties and then sell them on to make a profit. If they sit on those properties and they can't sell them, they end up making a loss. If they make too much of a loss, they're not in existence anymore. And everybody that works in that trade loses their livelihood. The country needs the builders to be building houses. We've got 1 million house shortfall in the UK already. We can't afford for the builders to stop building. So even if they have to sell those houses on at a small loss, or even at break-even point, so they don't make their 15% on top, but they sell them on at break-even so they can keep everyone in a job, and they get to then build more houses, that's great for the building companies, that's great for the people that work there, that's great for our economy, and it's great for the homeless people we've got, or the people that are having to live on people's sofas. We need those houses to be built. The builders need to be able to sell those houses onto somebody. They're going to need a solution. So we've got people getting divorced, we've got builders that need to sell houses on. We will have people in financial difficulty. I don't want to prey on that. I don't want to take advantage of that situation. But if you learn the skill sets, maybe you can help them. Can you learn a skill set that helps a builder or helps multiple builders? Can you learn a skill set that helps those people that need to get divorced or need to live separately for a while they work this stuff out? Can you learn that skill set to help those people under financial pressure, to help them work their way through it? Can you go out and help these people? That's the question that I want to ask you. And the answer most definitely is yes. Any skill set can be learned. You just need to go out and find it and then go out and learn it. And anybody can learn these skill sets that I'm talking about. So we've got all these effects going on. Let's finish this off. Let me talk to you about Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett, another great mind, another financial genius. So, if you've not heard of him, arguably the best investor of our time. What did Warren do when the credit crunch arrived? He bought. He bought. The markets are falling, people are jumping out of the markets trying to get away, and Warren Buffett's buying. And you're like, what's going on here? And Warren will say to you, buy when others are fearful. Sell when others are greedy. Get out when others are greedy. In the property market, when you hear that and no disrespect, but the taxi driver or the bartender is buying an investment property, that's probably, or your sister-in-law or brother-in-law for the first ever time is interested, that's because too many people are getting in. But when people are fearful, when the market is dropping, Warren Buffett would be buying. He's a financial genius. He would be buying at that time. Now, he'd buy at the right price point. He wouldn't buy today. He wouldn't buy tomorrow. But in 3 to 6 months' time, he'd be buying. He'd be getting in. He'd be investing in property. Getting properties under his belt, helping solve these other people's problems, helping the economy get moving again by investing in property, so it helps other people, but helping him and his family. And he'd be teaching his family around him and his friends how to do exactly the same thing. He'd be encouraging them to buy as well at that time, so that you can help other people and help yourself. So I want to reach out and help you. I've got a skill set to enable me and my family to be safe when this happens. You know, my money will still come in when the credit crunch happens. And my business is affected? Of course they are. Are the people that work in my business affected? Of course they are. And I care passionately about them. And this is an awful time for absolutely everybody. But because of the skill set that I have, and because of the things that I've done in the past, the impact isn't as big. Coronavirus might come back again in 3 or 5 years. There might be another virus that comes in the future. We're all going to be more aware of this now. And I want to help you build a fortress, okay? The future is also bleak, by the way. Not what I mean is we'll get through this, but when you retire, what's your pension fund going to look like? It's the state is chucking all this money in. Governments all around the world chucking all of this money in to help people out right now today, and it's phenomenal what they're doing. But they're going to be skinned. Taxes are going to have to go up in the future when we can afford it to pay this money back. They're not going to have the money. We're going to have to pay this money back at some point. And pensions are not going to be sustainable. In the UK, when pensions were first brought out, did you know there were 14 people working for every person that was retired? So 14 people paid into the pension pot and it paid for the retired person. Do you know what that stat is right now? It's down to about 2.5. 2.5 people working for each person retired. And by the time we retire in 20, 30, 40 years, you retire, whatever age, it might be down to 2 people working for everyone retired. And then the government skin as well. The state pension, in my opinion, is not sustainable. And right now we're going to have to throw money at the NHS even more than ever, not at pensions. So we need to be responsible. We need to look after our future and build ourselves, our protection, and make sure our kids learn these skill sets as well. By the way, you learn this skill set, you can teach it to your kids. You can teach it to your friends. You can teach it to your family so they're safe too. So what I'd like to invite you to do, this is the first video of a video series that I'm recording, and I'd like to invite you to learn the rules that you need to learn so you can help other people right now financially and you can help yourself. So Warren Buffett has 2 rules when he's investing. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, follow rule number 1. We need to never lose money, ever. I want to help you get set up so you never lose money, that you're never in this position again when you don't have that financial fortress around you. And so you can teach this to your kids, to your friends, to your family, so they too can have a fortress for the future. And these rules are critical, absolutely critical. Now here's the thing, I have rules that I follow. Having bought over 200 properties for myself and helped our clients and investors buy over 1,000, I can't do that without having incredibly strict rules. My first 50 properties were a nightmare, or had disasters written all over quite a lot of them because I didn't have strict rules. I didn't know what I was doing and I was making mistakes. You can't afford to make those mistakes, especially right now. You need to learn the rules that will help you to help other people, to help the economy, to help those builders, to help those people that are going to split up, to help those people financially struggling and that are going to help you. And here's what I discovered when I studied this in detail. When I studied this in minutiae and went and interviewed people who made 100K plus a year, etc., I discovered there were 10 key rules that if you master to an 8, 9 or 10 out of 10, each of those rules, I can almost guarantee you whatever money you're starting with, whatever time you're starting with, whatever experience you're starting with, I can almost guarantee you if you master them and you take action, I can almost guarantee you can build a financial fortress through property. But here's the challenge. Here's the challenge for everybody. If just 1 or 2 of those rules are missing, you can be brilliant at 7 or 8. But if just 1 or 2 are missing, I can almost guarantee you'll fall over on the way. Fear will get in the way, or you'll pause, or you'll hesitate, or you'll get to 1, 2 or 3 properties, but that's not enough to build you a fortress. So what I'd love to do is share those rules with you. I'd love to teach you these 10 key rules so you understand what they are, so you can score yourself out of 10 at each of them, and you can realize where your gaps are. Where is the gaps in your knowledge that you need to fill? And then if you're going to end up isolated, if you're going to end up sat at home twiddling your thumbs, wishing you could get out, you can use this time resourcefully. You can use this time to go, I know where my gaps are, and I'm going to go fill my gaps and learn what I need to fill so that I can build this fortress for myself for now and for the future. I want to help you to do this. So what I'm going to invite you to do is join me on my next video. You know, look out for the invite to it. And on my next video, it's totally free. Just come and join me. I'm going to teach you these 10 key areas so you can work out where you are, you can work out where your gaps are, and you can start to then think about, how do I fill that gap? What do I need to do to learn the skills that I've got missing? The everyday skills that 17-year-olds are using, 94-year-olds are using. I've taught these to people near and far, all age groups, and you can use them too. I teach over 100,000 people a year to do this, and I can teach you it too for free on the next video. So I look forward to seeing you soon. In the meantime, look after yourself, look after your families, look after your loved ones. I'm sending you all our love and all of our best wishes in this trying time. And I look forward to seeing you again really, really soon. Thanks for listening. Speak to you soon.